all, I want to introduce Christopher Paul, our coach with Tom Ferry International, my good friend. Today, we're talking about leveraging listings, the way we can multiply this experience and get more listings from listings we already have. So Coach Christopher Paul will teach us how to step-by-step plan how to leverage these listings and take advantage of marketing our listings to get more opportunities. Go ahead, take over.
All right. Well, I'll take it away. Just a quick introduction. I am in my 18th year in the business, and let's see, as a coach, I believe I'm about to start my 7th year as a coach. I'm in San Diego, Southern California. So I work mainly in North County, San Diego, and kind of some of the surrounding counties, a little bit of Orange County and the Inland Empire as well. Originally from a small town up in the mountains in Northern California. The Marines brought me to Southern California. I stayed for college and end up with a mortgage, and you're kind of rooted, and I've never left. So I've been here since then. So anyway, like I mentioned, in real estate since 2005, and I've always been a big fan of listings. I've always been listing centric, even brand new in the business. My primary efforts were towards the acquisition of listings right out of the chute. And so I've learned some strategies and some mindset on how to really be listing centric in your business. And so one of the key aspects of that is using the listings you've got as leverage to pick up more listings. So that's really the thrust of my talk today. So I am so prepared. I have a slideshow for you and everything. So I'll go to that. I'm going to share my screen and pull up a presentation that, oh, it looks like you're getting it in reverse right now. Okay, if I play it, there's our full screen. So, okay, and we got the small windows there too. So, all right, so the topic here is listing leverage, using your new listing to get your next several deals. And notice I said new listing here. Your best opportunity is as a listing is fresh, as that information is new, in order to use that very strategically in order to get additional business. So, one of the things I want to do is dig in a little bit and make a distinction between strategy and tactics, and kind of my military mindset thinking here a little bit. I see one of the mistakes I see agents doing frequently is just deploying tactics in isolation and just say, I got a new listing, so I'm going to throw out a postcard. I got a new listing, so I'm going to do an open house. And they're not making it part of an overall strategy. A strategy is going to have a goal in mind. It's going to have a desired outcome. It's going to have, most importantly, a series of tactics that you're using in conjunction. If I use Tom's language, it's running a play, right? Create and run a play around a listing that you take. The other terminology you've heard is the listing launch, right? So a listing launch is going to be a play you run, and a strategy as part of a strategy. You're going to have a goal, and you're going to deploy several different tactics in conjunction to do that. All right, so I'm going to suggest this. I'm going to pose this here, is that as a goal, a really reasonable expectation to put on yourself is to acquire 2 additional listings and 1 buyer from each listing that you launch. Now, think back about the number of listings you took in the last 12 months here, and what if each of those were to be multiplied by 3, multiplied by 2 additional listings and 1 additional buyer? You can see how this can be the kind of thing that you can scale and can really be a business builder here. Something that this could be one of the really key points of your business plan in terms of growing your business here. So think about the opportunities, the different ways in which you might pick somebody up here. We know that if you have a listing, you might pick up the buyer by double ending it. You might pick up a buyer that goes and purchases another property. You might have the client, the seller, who also is a buyer, and you're representing them or referring them to another agent. You might get a referral for another buyer or seller from your seller, from your current client. Could be that somebody in your sphere of influence, through marketing the property to your sphere of influence, jumps into the fray and says, gosh, we're happy where we're at, but when I see this property here, it makes me think I might be interested. We know about open houses and the opportunities there for buyers and sellers, right? We might have a prospect that responds to advertising that we do on the property. We might have a neighbor that pops in at an open house or calls you. And then the other thing, and a lot of people neglect this, is adopting the other side of the transaction. Adopt the buyer after the transaction and bring them into your fold and continue to make them part of your sphere of influence after the transaction. Okay, so here is my mindset on this. A quote that I'm gonna share with you here. As a listing agent, you have the home field advantage. You have the single greatest odds over any other agent in the marketplace to attract the buyer who will purchase the home. Have you ever thought about that? You have the single greatest opportunity, the single greatest odds to attract the buyer there. So if we're really, really smart and tactical in the way that we deploy our listings here, we can use that home field advantage to attract people who are more likely to transact with you. Okay, so here's what I'm going to suggest here is that as a strategy, we want to develop a plan to target buyers and sellers using this new listing. And then what tactics are we're basically through tactics deploy a series of actions which target specific audiences of buyers and sellers. Okay, I'm flying through my slides here. I may some of them I'm going to park on a little bit here. So when you launch a listing, I'm going to suggest that part of your action plan should be before, it should be during, and it should be after. Your efforts should be focused on acquisition of leads before, during, and after the transaction. Okay, and so as we kind of unpack this a little bit, you'll see this. I see frequently a lot of people don't start until they get to the during, and they drop the ball in the after. And so if we are really, really mindful about doing it before with, say, a coming soon campaign and part of our launching of the listing there, that really, really provides a lot of opportunity. We'll unpack that. Okay. All right. So let me present to you a possible listing marketing plan, a listing launch here. And I'm going to suggest to you part of the mindset on this, I would suggest, and this is research-based, is that if any of you have ever been with Keller Williams, not to promote them or any, I'm not with them anymore, but I spent the majority of my career there and was in management there and stuff. The famous Red Book, Gary Keller, I don't think Gary did this research, but somebody did it at Baylor University, and they determined that it was 8 touches was the magic number in order to become front of mind in the mind of a new prospect. So if you meet somebody new, if you can be into them about 8 times within a fairly rapid rate of succession, then you can establish front of mind presence there. So the example that's given sometimes is name a cola, right? Name a brand of cola, and invariably everybody says Coke or they say Pepsi, right? They typically say those two in either one or two or that. If you are the first or second, even if they've got an agent of choice already, if you could become number 2, you've got a sporting chance of winning that business. Okay, so the goal is to have a repetitious series of touches in this audience here during that time, before, during, and after the transaction, the time you've got this listing here. Okay, so let's take a look at, let me give you one more analogy here. Sometimes in coaching, I haven't heard it described this way before, but it used to be sort of described this way. Farming, we know about geographic farming, right? But making a distinction between that and, say, demographic farming, which would be a group of people that have a certain demographic type. It might be non-owner occupieds, it might be empty nesters, it might be divorces, right? People who meet a certain demographic. And then the third type of farm would be conditional farm. The variable there would be time. This would be an example of a conditional farm. So if I use a retail analogy, a geographic farm would be your brick and mortar store, your Nordstrom's or Macy's or something like that. And then your conditional farm would be like a pop-up store. It's like, a tent that popped up on the sidewalk and putting a campaign out there, we're here for 1 week only kind of thing, right? This is a temporary it's kind of a hit it and quit it kind of thing, but with the idea that you can extract additional business from this area here. So anyway, let's take a look through this proposed listing launch marketing plan. And again, this is just a brainstorming session here. If you're using a coming soon campaign, according to the clear policy that most MLSs around the country are deploying, you can market a listing of yours up to 3 weeks in advance of when you go live to the public. Now, different MLSs have different rules on this. There's some of them that say you can do it for 2 weeks. There's some of them that say you can't do it at all. So obviously you've got to kind of modify this, right? Additionally, you're going to have certain listings that are going to be suitable for certain tactics and not suitable for others. So for instance, if a neighborhood is walkable and knockable, then that's going to be something that you're probably going to want to do. If you're in the hood and it's an area like, hey, I want to get in and out of here as fast as possible, and I really don't care if I get repeat business, then obviously something different, right? So this is, I would suggest, a general plan here that you could do. So if we look through, say, week 1, we could be sending out a, and we're going to have an audience basically targeting buyers and sellers both, okay? So week 1, a postcard with, say, a coming soon or an open house message on it, okay? Very commonly, people are doing the just listed, just sold. I'm going to suggest we back that up a step each, that we go coming soon and under contract, and I'll explain each why. Coming soon, you've got the opportunity, you've got you've got information that's not generally out there yet. It's fresh info. Everybody's on the internet right now. Everybody's got listing feeds from wherever going on. If a new listing hits the market and it's live, everybody knows about it already. But if we go coming soon on it during the time that's prescribed in the clear policy and per your MLS rules, then that's an opportunity to get some early word out there. During this time, we could also be doing Facebook ads on this too, coming soon, open house ones, and there's a variety of different ways we'll do that. I won't go into the details on it, but there are Facebook community groups that you could be posting into. Posting onto your own page. You could be doing boosted ads. You could also be running targeted ads or sponsored ads towards specific audience, such as your sphere of influence, or if you're really savvy, like pull in the data from the neighborhood, upload them as a target audience, and then run sponsored ads towards that particular neighborhood. And your coach can probably talk to you a little bit more about that. So the general idea is that week 1, we're starting to get some touches out there. I'm going to suggest door knocking at least 50 doors that first week. A total of 200 doors is the general plan there. And if you can do more in 1 week and fewer in another, your call of this, right? Okay, so week 2, get a yard sign up there. Get a yard sign with coming soon, a coming soon rider on that. More ads, running ads again. If you are running A/B testing on this, this is the time to be doing this during week 1 and week 2, where you're running an A ad, running a B ad, see which one responds more, and then double down on that and say week 3 on your launch week, right? If you're doing it that way. Enhancing your listings with more photos and etc. So there's 2 frames of thought on this one here. Is one frame of thought is that you've got one chance to make a first impression. I don't want to put it out there until everything is perfect, right? Until I've got my professional photos, I've got my video uploaded, I've got my Matterport 3D, yada, 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 and everything goes out all at once. And that's probably not happening until kind of towards the end, right? And towards the end of a 3-week period. And during that week 1, 2, and 3, how often do you have sellers that are still like, hey, we're still getting ready, we're still painting, we're still unpacking or uncluttering, right? That kind of stuff. So there's missed opportunity if we're like shortening that time frame there. Okay, so here's the other mindset on that is that, and Chris Kwan, if you know who he is, excellent agent. Thomas featured him before. And I had a conversation about this, and we're both on the same page on this, is that trickle out the information over week 1, 2, and 3. So in other words, if it's a cell phone photo or a few cell phone photos, like sneak photos at week 1, it's going out there to this audience. Maybe you've got a short description. Okay, but think about what's happening when you've got a listing. Let's say, imagine you're a buyer and you've got a saved search on the portal, on one of the portals that let's just name one of them. It starts with Z and rhymes with Willow, right? Let's say that they're there and they've got a saved search. This new listing pops up and they get an email about it. When you add photos, additional emails will go out. When you add a virtual tour or when you add a 3D tour, additional photos happen. When you add an open house, that's an additional look at the property, additional email that goes out. So in other words, we can gamify that listing a little bit on the online portals by trickling some of that information out there and continuing to get the people in front of it. I would suggest that you're watching some of the analytics on this. So as you go into your Zillow Premier Agent profile, even if you're not a Zillow Premier Agent, right? You should have a Zillow profile. You can go in, you can go look at your photos, and you can look at like the viewing count that happens. And and if you've got just very few viewings going, you're playing it wrong. If you've got everything out there right at the beginning, you'll see the viewing activity start to decline right at the time when you need the eyeballs on the property the most, right? And so by kind of keeping it going, does a couple of things. Keeps people engaged. You're starting to create an audience for this property. And then thirdly, you are basically gamifying Zillow's algorithm here, just like some people are doing really effectively with Instagram. You've heard some of the tactics on this: more viewings, more eyeballs, more clicks, that kind of thing. It starts to get promoted higher in the search results, and you get more eyeballs on the property because it's a hot property. Redfin too, by the way, is going to reach out to you and they're going to say, hey, this property looks like it will sell quickly. Do you want to put an offer deadline on this? And yeah, you do want to do that, right? It's communicating to everybody who's looking in that portal there that, hey, we got a timeline here. If a lot of people are looking, we need to act quickly, right? So so here's some of the things here. Yard sign, more ads, door knocking, enhance the listing, enhancing, video, that kind of thing. Create that plan where you're getting that stuff out there. Get the open house dates out there as well too when you do that. And I would suggest, if we look at launch week here, that what you do is you switch from coming soon status to active status on Thursday and have the first available showings not until Saturday on your open house. Why? Because we're basically just building up some pent-up demand. We swing open the doors, and it's really, really an effective way of getting as many people through the property as possible. It's good service to your client for two reasons. One, they're not playing, popcorn, showings here, like, okay, get out now for one party coming in, get out again for another party coming through. We can funnel everybody in, the majority of everybody in during this like window of time, Saturday and Sunday. You might even tell them like, hey, just leave town for the weekend, just leave the house with me, and I'll just run people through all weekend and we'll accept an offer on Tuesday, right? Okay, and then so using that open house there to really funnel people in during that time there. Okay. While you're under contract, there's additional opportunities there. We're busy with the transaction itself and doing all of that kind of thing, but you could be continuing to run ads on that neighborhood and mailing to this neighborhood. And here's an amazing message you could be doing. You could be saying, instead of, waiting until it's closed, which is old news at that point, right? You're going under contract, and we'd say under contract, sold in whatever the superlatives are in 3 days, and substantially over list price. Now here's the clincher, okay? Instead of saying we sold for $2,000 over or $200,000 over list price or whatever, our message is we sold for substantially higher than expected, and then this. The price is not public data yet, but call me if you're thinking about moving, so you can know what effect this is going to have on your home's changing value. You can see how much more compelling a call to action that is there. And like, a big sale is about to go down here. It's going to have an effect on my home's changing value. And guess who knows it? And guess who doesn't know it? Everybody else. I've got exclusive access to that intel, right? And so you may not want to like disclose the price, the sales price, the under contract price, but you say, okay, if we were to run, knowing what I know, we were to do a comparative market analysis for your home or a certain date or so, this would be what I would suggest would be a market value for your property. And that's incredible value you bring to that person, that the agent that sold them the house that may or may not have stayed in touch with them is not able to deliver. Make sense? Okay, so I talked for a long time there. I've got a lot more here. Maybe I just keep going and then open it up to questions. How's that?
Yeah, keep going. Keep going.
All right. I'm on a roll. Okay, here is the magic door knocking script. I'll tell you, I can take credit for part of it. I've used it and been teaching it for years and made a lot of money on it. My clients have made a lot of money on it as well. And then I made it even better this year by going to the Phil Jones training, and I ran through this with Phil Jones. In fact, I even have my one that he marked all up here, and I've modified it a little bit. So here's my magic door knocking script here. So, and I'll go through some of the mindset on this and where I think we as agents make mistakes on this. By the way, let me say this, is that if you are not door knocking, I think you're missing the boat on the most important tactic, individual tactic you could be doing in order to get additional listings in the neighborhood. We have a tendency to want to be passive in our lead generation. It's just, we put my name out there, we put it out there and let them come to us. If they're interested, they'll come to us, we might tell them, as opposed to taking a position and perspective of leadership. And I will initiate the conversations. I will initiate the talk and the information flow here. I will go out and reach people and find out where they're at and be okay with their later but not now. Okay. And so I would even say this about open houses. This is the kind of thing that's really easy to gamify. If you, or I said open houses, I meant door knocking. Suggested play to run on this is, if you're doing it well, typically about 50 at a time is the right number. If you're trying to, if you say I'm going to knock 200 doors this weekend, if you're doing it right, you're not going to be able to do that. You could canvas 200 doors, but knocking on the doors, the whole point is to engage in conversation and the building of rapport and relationship. And so that is the whole point of this. And with 50, what I like about this is I just go out, hit 50, and track and measure. You heard Tom say so many times, what you track and measure, you can improve. So what we can do is we can track and measure this, and then we can create a baseline of data for what we can expect. But I'll tell you some really real results here. This is some data from back in the day when I was doing it actually in a cheaper neighborhood than I was living in now. But I use this example for just easy math, but average were $400,000 homes. Let's say a 2%, 2.5% commission on this would end up being a $10,000 commission on this. So about every 100 doors, I would get 3 to 4 listing leads. And they may be they may be bottom of the funnel, ready to go like now. I mean, I've had somebody say, thank God, a realtor. I'm ready to sell my house. I've literally had that. And then I've had others like, it's not for a while, but but let's stay in touch. Those are good leads. Those go in the database. Those remain cultivated, and that's some of your listing inventory 1, 2, 3 years down the line from now. Okay, so that's part of my mindset on that. And 200 doors. I'm playing very conservative when I say take 2 transactions out of that, right? So anyway, let me play one more little thought experiment on this. $10,000. Let's say that I end up with 3 listing leads or 2 listing leads. Let's say that I only that one of them already has somebody, right? And let's go back a little bit further. Let's say this 100 homes has let's say a less than average turnover rate. Average turnover rate in America has historically been 6%. Let's just take it down to say 3%. So in the next year, there are going to be 3 listings in the neighborhood. Let's say I'm only able to contact, say, 2 of the 3. right? And let's say one of those people, their brother-in-law is a realtor, and like, hey, I can't list it with somebody else. Thanksgiving's gonna be awkward if I do that. I just can't, right? But you get that one listing, right? You knock 100 doors, you get that one listing, okay? What is the rate per door on that? How much do you get per door that you knocked? $100. So here's a little thought experiment. Let's say I parachute into your town with a briefcase full of money, big stack of Benjis, and I said, let's go door knocking around your new listing. And so we go into your neighborhood. And I say, go knock on the door. And you knock on the door. Nobody comes. You ring the doorbell. Nobody there. Knock on the door again. We wait. We leave a flyer on the door. And you're like, sorry, coach, nobody there. I said, that's okay. Here's $100. We go to the next door and somebody answers the door and they're like, oh, why are you bothering me? You know, like, oh, that was a horrible thing. That's okay. Here's $100, right? And we do that. We continued. Like, is that something you would do? Would you knock on doors if you knew you could get $100 per door? I think the answer is yes, right? That's some of the easy. That is not fictional math there. That's not fictional there. That's like real data from like my door knocking days. And so I would just say, if we're not knocking on doors, you are missing probably the single most effective seller lead generation tactic you could deploy around a listing that you take. I want to drive that puppy home. Okay, if you're not knocking on doors around your listing, you are missing the single most important and most effective and best bang for the buck lead generation activity around that listing. Okay, so anyway, gosh, we're at 30 minutes already. I'm going to fly through this and go to questions here. So, the script, here we go. Okay, so the script here, I'm going to kind of talk my way through it, and then I kind of go through it once. I'll do a little explanation here. Okay, hi, I'm Chris. I'm a local realtor, and I have a new listing over on Magnolia Avenue here. It's 2,500 square feet, and we're hitting the market soon at $529,000. I was wondering, who do you know that might be interested in moving into the neighborhood? Okay, if you had the opportunity to pick your own neighbor, who would you choose? What about you? How long have you lived in the neighborhood? Where were you living before? A question, is this your forever home, or do you see yourself possibly moving someday? How soon do you think that might be? Who do you potentially, or do you potentially know anyone who's talked about buying or selling who could use my services? Would it be okay if we stay in touch? I can provide you with a regular update of your home's changing value. And if they're, some of the emails are automated, but I promise that all of the replies are read by me personally. Some of that's added. This is the Phil Jones added version. Some of my clients have not seen this one yet. Okay, so here's the deal. Step one, short on the introduction, okay? They don't care about if I'm like, I'm Chris and I'm with, Joe Schmuckatelli team at Town and Country Real Estate Associates at Berkshire Hathaway, like way too much, lost them. Expect the reflex no on question number one. Just like, no, can't think of anyone, right? But if they're chatty, employee number two. Well, if you had the opportunity to pick your neighbor, who would you choose? But if they're like backpedaling by their body language, skip it and go to number three. Number three is maybe it's the second most important script here. And I call it the pivot question, okay? What about you? How long have you lived in the neighborhood? Do you notice how we changed the topic there? Okay, we changed from that property over there to you, and people love to talk about themselves, right? Question four is a setup question. Where were you living before? Okay, I used to phrase it differently. It said, where did you move from? Phil convinced me to change this to this. Where were you living before? A little bit softer, okay? But what's it doing? It's getting them thinking about living in a home other than the one they're in presently, right? And then number five is the money question, okay? Is this your forever home, or do you see yourself possibly moving someday? And what do many of the scripts out there say? They go straight to the jugular. You're going, hi, I'm Chris, I'm a local realtor, blah, 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 blah. Have you folks had any thoughts of selling? Okay. Like Tom joked about this at Elite Retreat. He said some of us are going for the jugular too fast. The way he joked about it, he says, "Hi, I'm Tom Ferry. Sex?" like wait a minute, like you're trying to kiss too early on the first date, right? Okay, this is a way more, I would say, emotionally intelligent way of getting to that. So, is this your forever home, or do you see yourself possibly moving someday? One of the two is true, and either one is an acceptable answer. You just gave them permission to answer either way. It's not going to make that an awkward question at all, right? And if they say, "Oh, someday," I'm like, well, how soon do you think that might be? Okay, Phil helped me with that line. I reworded it. Okay. Number 7, you're just looking for referrals. Do you potentially know anyone who's talked about buying or selling who could use my services? My record on that is 8 leads from one door, one chatty lady who ratted out everybody in the neighborhood, right? You might just find yourself a gold mine if you do it right. Hint, the mailman. If you get a hold of the mailman knows everybody, knows who's getting certified letter, knows who's having problem. Mailman told me once, hey, you should talk to these people here. I know she fell down the stairs and broke her hip and is sleeping on the couch downstairs. Okay, are those people that need to like downsize and get a single story home? Heck yeah, they are. Okay, and then number 8, it's add them to the database, right? Would it be okay if we stay in touch? I can provide you with a regular update of your home's changing value. And if they balk, and I'll say, well, some of the emails are automated, but I promise that all the replies are read by me personally. So you just humanized that automated response there, right? Okay, so there's my magic door knocking script. I'll get that over to Roman, who will get it to you guys as well too. Okay, so summary here. I'm going to suggest that we make a distinction between strategy and tactics, right? A strategy is going to be an overall plan that you put into place that's going to have a goal, like I've got there number 2, a goal for additional deals, and that you're going to use different tactics in conjunction to try to get a minimum of 8 touches towards these audiences here, towards sellers and buyers both. Okay. Keep in mind that there are many different opportunities to use the listing to acquire more business, and that you as the listing agent have the home field advantage. And let's say you're not into buyers at all. The buyers that come to you and want to buy your listing are the types of buyers you want, right? They tend to be your very best buyers. Okay, those ones that come to you and say, "Hey, I don't have an agent," right? My suggestion, develop a listing launch strategy that deploys a series of tactics to reach a desired buyer and seller audience before, during, after the sale. Okay, and back to that list there again, after the sale, some of the best ones like the letter from your seller, a letter introducing the new buyer, a housewarming party for that buyer if you say you double-ended that property there. Think about personality types also. What is the client? You might have a buyer who as amiables, that introducing the buyers to the neighborhood, that's a classic amiable play, right? And then this last one here, if you're not knocking on doors, you are leaving money on the table, my friends. Okay, that is one of the most important things that you can be doing. One of my coaching clients came to me in a moment of confession saying, "Coach, I've been slacking off. I am down in business and I might have to go get a job if I don't change my ways." We created a plan for him, a really aggressive 45-day plan that included calling his database regularly in the morning and door knocking a minimum of 50 doors every afternoon. And he pivoted that whole thing around and then ended up with, I believe that play ended with him at least 5 or 6 listing appointments that he had in this 45-day stretch. Went from 0 to hero really hard, really fast. Again, it's about being prospecting based, marketing enhanced, and it's about being proactive with our lead generation. Okay.